The war could end with a kiss, but only if the human says yes. Whispers in the void. Commander Lyra Nakamura's shuttle sliced through Vespera's lavender atmosphere, trailing silver contrails like reluctant sighs. The viewing port's nanoglass tinted automatically as twin suns cast prismatic reflections across the planet's crystalline mountain ranges. 20 minutes to touchdown, Commander. The AI pilot's voice was crisp, almost apologetic. Atmospheric anomalies detected. Recommend securing all loose items. Lyra tightened her uniform's collar and checked the diplomatic seal on her wrist. The silver emblem pulsed faintly, synchronizing with her heartbeat, a biosecurity measure and a leash. Earth Command could monitor her vitals, track her movements, and, if necessary, terminate the mission with clinical efficiency. How thoughtful, she muttered, securing her datapad. They've sent me to negotiate with the enemy while keeping their finger on the trigger. The shuttle banked sharply, revealing the Vesperan capital sprawled below like a scattered handful of diamonds on velvet. Unlike human architecture's hard angles and defensive postures, the alien city flowed in spiraling patterns that seemed to defy both gravity and logic. Spires of translucent material shifted colors with the changing light, while floating platforms drifted between them, connected by bridges that appeared and disappeared like thoughts. It was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful. Lyra had spent 16 years fighting these aliens across 3 star systems. She'd lost squad mates, friends, and nearly her life at the Battle of Callisto. Her left leg, a marvel of biomechanical engineering, ached with phantom pain whenever she thought about the Vesperan energy weapons that had vaporized the original. Now she was being asked to consider marriage. Not a real marriage, of course, a diplomatic union, a symbol to end a war that had claimed billions of lives. A gesture that might stitch together 2 civilizations that had spent a generation trying to annihilate each other. The shuttle's descent grew rougher as they penetrated the lower atmosphere. Lyra gripped her armrests, mentally reciting the briefing that General Harrison had delivered with characteristic bluntness. The Vesperan High Consul has proposed a symbolic union between our species. It's unconventional, unprecedented, and frankly, unsettling. But we're losing this war, Commander. Every projection shows complete system collapse within 3 years if hostilities continue. Your mission is to evaluate the sincerity of their offer while appearing receptive. If genuine, proceed with negotiations. If it's a trap, well, that's why we've equipped your bioseal with certain contingencies. The shuttle touched down with a gentle hiss on a platform that shimmered like liquid mercury. As the hatch opened, Lyra was struck by air so sweet it almost hurt her lungs. Nothing like the recycled, filtered atmosphere of the military stations she'd called home for most of her adult life. A delegation waited on the landing pad, their tall, willowy forms draped in robes that rippled with bioluminescent patterns. At their center stood a figure slightly taller than the rest, with skin the color of burnished copper and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. High Consul Thaxos, leader of the Vesperan Conclave, and architect of strategies that had decimated human outposts across the Orion Arm. Now, apparently, a suitor. Lyra straightened her spine, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down on her shoulders. She stepped forward, her artificial leg compensating smoothly for the slightly lower gravity. Commander Nakamura, Thaxos' voice was melodic, each syllable containing harmonics that human vocal cords couldn't reproduce. You honor us with your presence. The universal translator embedded near her Erdrum rendered the alien language into standard English, but couldn't quite capture the musical quality. Lyra inclined her head in the formal greeting she'd been taught. High Consul, the honor is mutual. Earth extends its hand in the hope of understanding. Thaxos made a gesture that might have been amusement. Hand extending seems a modest ambition, given what we've proposed. The delegation rippled with a sound that might have been laughter. Lyra felt heat rise to her face, but maintained her diplomatic composure. Sometimes modest ambitions lead to profound changes, High Consul. Thaxos' mouth, a feature more horizontal than human lips, curved slightly. Eloquently stated, "Come, you must be weary from your journey. There will be time for formalities after you've rested." The entourage moved like water, flowing around Lyra rather than expecting her to follow. Thaxos remained beside her, matching pace with her slightly stilted gait. "Your leg causes you discomfort," the consul observed. "Not a question." Lyra stiffened. "An old war injury. It functions adequately. From the Callisto engagement. Our resonance cannons, I believe." She shot him a sharp glance. "You seem well informed about my personal history. We chose our diplomatic partner with care, Commander. Just as your people selected you. A decorated soldier with expertise in xenopolitics and a personal grievance against my species. A fascinating choice." They walked in silence along a causeway that adjusted its texture beneath Lyra's feet, becoming firmer when her artificial leg pressed down. The city hummed around them, buildings communicating with subtle vibrations that Lyra could feel through her soles. "This marriage proposal," she said finally, "is it customary among your people to unite warring factions this way?" Thaxos made a sound like water striking crystal. "There is no precedent. But there is also no precedent for a war of this magnitude. Extraordinary circumstances require extraordinary solutions. And your people support this solution. They are divided, as I imagine yours are. Some see hope, others see capitulation. What matters is that enough see possibility." They arrived at a structure that appeared to be growing rather than standing, a building in a constant state of becoming. Inside, surfaces shifted subtly to accommodate human ergonomics. A chair formed from the floor, its dimensions perfect for Lyra's height and the peculiarities of her prosthetic. "These will be your quarters," Thaxos indicated with a graceful gesture. "The environmental systems have been calibrated to human preferences. If anything is uncomfortable, simply speak your needs aloud." Lyra surveyed the space with a soldier's eye. Exits, defensive positions, potential weapons, old habits. When will the formal negotiations begin? Tomorrow there will be a welcoming ceremony. The day after, you will meet the conclave. The diplomatic process has 7 stages, culminating in the union ritual if we proceed favorably. Thaxos paused. "But tonight, I thought perhaps we might speak informally, person to person, rather than representative to representative." Lyra's biosil pulsed a warning against her skin. Her heart rate had elevated. "I'm not authorized to engage in unofficial discussions." "Are all humans so bound by authorization, Commander Nakamura? Even in matters that might determine the fate of your species?" The question hung between them, challenging and sincere. "I'll consider your invitation," she said finally. Thaxos bowed slightly. "Until tonight, then, or not. The choice remains yours." After the delegation departed, Lyra activated her secure comms channel. General Harrison's holographic form materialized, looking grim as always. "Report, Commander. I've made contact with High Consul Thaxos. Initial impressions are complicated." Harrison's eyes narrowed. "Elaborate." "They're exactly what our intelligence suggested. Technologically superior, culturally enigmatic. But there's something our reports missed. They're desperate, General. This proposal isn't coming from a position of strength." "Explain." Lyra paced, her artificial leg whirring softly. "Their city is beautiful, but I've spotted resource allocation inconsistencies. Their environmental systems are prioritizing diplomatic areas. I suspect they're facing collapse just as we are. So this marriage charade is a stalling tactic, or a genuine attempt at mutual salvation." Lyra paused. "Sir, Thaxos has invited me to an informal discussion tonight." Harrison's hologram flickered with interference, or perhaps disapproval. "That's outside protocol. It's also our first real opportunity to understand their intentions." A long pause. "Proceed with extreme caution, Commander. Remember your contingency measures." The hologram dissolved, leaving Lyra alone in the alien room. She removed her uniform jacket, revealing the scars that traced patterns across her shoulders, souvenirs from the same attack that took her leg. Beyond her window, The twin suns began to set, casting the crystalline city in shades of amber and violet. Somewhere in that alien landscape, decisions were being made about her, about Earth, about whether two species that had spent decades perfecting each other's destruction could possibly create something together instead. Lyra touched the diplomatic seal on her wrist, feeling its steady pulse. Tonight, she would meet with Faxos. Not as Commander Nakamura, Earth's reluctant diplomatic weapon, but as herself, a woman who had seen too much death and was desperately curious about the possibility of something else, even if it began with a marriage that neither of them had ever imagined. Fractured light. The Vesperan conclave chamber resembled the inside of a geode, walls of crystalline facets that amplified light and sound in patterns Lyra's human brain struggled to interpret. 47 alien dignitaries arranged themselves on hovering platforms that shifted positions like pieces on a three-dimensional chessboard, creating complex relationships of hierarchy that seemed to change with each new speaker. 3 days had passed since her arrival. 3 days of ceremonies, introductions, and carefully scripted exchanges. 3 days of sensing that beneath the diplomatic veneer, something was terribly wrong. Lyra stood on her own platform, smaller than the others, and thankfully stationary. Her dress uniform felt stiff, the collar too tight against her throat. The diplomatic seal at her wrist pulsed faster than her heartbeat now. General Harrison was monitoring closely. High Consul Faxos occupied the central position, copper skin luminescent under the chamber's ambient glow. Their informal discussion 2 nights ago had been surprisingly candid, or at least had appeared so. Faxos had spoken of the war's toll on Vesperan society, of resources depleted and generations lost. He'd asked about Earth, listened with those light-absorbing eyes as Lyra described cities under biodomes, children who had never seen open sky. The Union proposal stands before the conclave, Faxos announced, his multi-tone voice echoing through the chamber. Commander Nakamura of Earth has completed the rites of introduction. We now enter the phase of true speaking. A murmur rippled through the assembled dignitaries. Lyra recognized this as the critical juncture, the moment when both parties were expected to reveal their genuine intentions, stripped of diplomatic artifice. Before we proceed, a voice interrupted from a platform near the ceiling. I invoke the right of challenge. The chamber went silent. Lyra's translator faltered momentarily before identifying the speaker as Counselor Vexus, Minister of Defense, and Faxos's most vocal opponent. The challenge is recognized, Faxos replied, his tone neutral despite the tension visibly rippling through his posture. Vexus' platform descended until it hovered opposite Lyra's. Unlike most Vesperans, whose movements flowed like water, Vexus moved with sharp, deliberate gestures. Battle scars traced pale lines across his obsidian skin. A warrior, like her. Commander Nakamura, Vexus addressed her directly. You come to us speaking of peace while your fleet repositions at the edge of our system. Curious timing for a marriage proposal. Lyra's heart skipped. Fleet movements. She had received no briefing about this. I'm not privy to all military operations, she answered carefully, but I assure you my mission is genuine. Perhaps, Vexus continued, but is it complete? Our intelligence suggests your diplomatic seal contains more than identification. A weapon, perhaps, or something more insidious. The chamber erupted in overlapping harmonics, shouts, accusations, demands. Faxos raised a hand, and silence fell immediately. These are serious allegations, Counselor. Do you offer proof? I offer this. Vexus gestured, and a holographic projection appeared in the chamber's center. Technical schematics of Lyra's diplomatic seal, including the classified contingency function. A quantum-encoded virus designed to infiltrate and collapse Vespera's neural network if activated. Lyra's blood ran cold. Her orders had been clear: evaluate, negotiate, but be prepared for betrayal. The seal was her insurance policy, a last resort if the peace talks proved to be a trap. She had never intended to use it, but now, with all eyes on her, the truth hung in the air like shattered glass. Commander. Faxos's voice was quiet, almost gentle. What say you to these accusations? Lyra straightened her spine, feeling the weight of two civilizations pressing down on her shoulders. Harrison would be watching, waiting for her to deny everything, to protect Earth's advantage. The seal contains a defensive measure, she admitted, watching Faxos's expression shift minutely. A standard protocol for high-risk diplomatic missions, but its existence doesn't negate the sincerity of our peace initiative. Yet you concealed it. Vexus pressed. As your people conceal their fleet movements. I was not informed of any fleet repositioning, Lyra said firmly, turning to address the entire conclave. If such movements are occurring, they were not part of my briefing. Her diplomatic seal burned against her wrist, pulsing in urgent pattern, a warning from Harrison. She was deviating from protocol, revealing too much. Perhaps, Faxos suggested, his voice carrying a new edge, we should pause these proceedings until Commander Nakamura can consult with her superiors. Before Lyra could respond, her personal communicator chimed. An emergency override that bypassed all security protocols. The holographic figure that appeared wasn't Harrison but Admiral Petro Rodriguez, Earth's highest military authority. Commander Nakamura. Rodriguez's voice was clipped. The situation has escalated. Return to your shuttle immediately for extraction. That's an order. The hologram vanished, leaving stunned silence in its wake. Faxos moved his platform closer to hers, close enough that she could see the complex patterns shifting beneath his copper skin, their equivalent of expressions she had learned. It seems your leaders have made their decision, he said quietly. I don't understand. Lyra replied, equally soft. What's happening? War, Vexus answered from across the chamber. Your fleet has moved into offensive positions. Our long-range sensors detected weapons activation 2 hours ago. Lyra's mind raced. This made no sense. Earth was losing, desperate for peace. Unless someone had decided that this diplomatic mission offered another opportunity. Get close enough to deploy the virus, cripple Vespera's defenses, then strike while they were vulnerable. She had been sent not as a peacemaker, but as a Trojan horse. The realization must have shone on her face, because Faxos's expression shifted to something like compassion. You didn't know, he said, not a question. No. The word felt torn from her throat. This isn't what I came here to do. Around them, the conclave chamber erupted in controlled chaos. Platforms repositioned as dignitaries conferred urgently. Guards materialized at the chamber's entrances. Lyra's platform began to descend. They were containing her, preparing for her arrest or worse. In that moment, Commander Lyra Nakamura made a decision that would alter the course of two civilizations. She removed the diplomatic seal from her wrist. The biolink severed with a sharp pain, blood beating along the connection points. Warning systems would be triggering throughout Earth Command. Their asset had gone dark. High Consul, she said, raising her voice above the chamber's discord. I request asylum. Silence fell like a blade. Asylum, Faxos repeated, those dark eyes unreadable. My mission has been compromised. I cannot in good conscience return to a command that has deceived me and plans to use me as an instrument of destruction. She held up the seal. This contains a neural virus designed to target your planetary systems. I'm surrendering it to you, along with everything I know about Earth's military capabilities and intentions. Vexus moved his platform forward. This could be another deception. It's not. Lyra said, looking directly at Faxos. You spoke of extraordinary solutions for extraordinary times. This is mine. For a long moment, the chamber hummed with tense energy. Then Faxos raised a hand, and a small containment field appeared beside Lyra. She placed the seal inside, watching as it was whisked away for analysis. The conclave will recess, Faxos announced. Commander Nakamura will remain under protection while we verify her claims and address the immediate threat. As the dignitaries dispersed, Faxos remained. When they were alone except for guards at a discreet distance, he spoke. Why? Your career, Your world. You've sacrificed everything. Lyra looked out through the chamber's transparent ceiling at the alien sky, thinking of Earth's gray biodomes and crowded shelters. Because someone has to choose differently, she said simply. Otherwise, we just keep destroying each other until there's nothing left. Thaxos was silent for a moment. Then, the Union proposal was genuine, you know, not just a political maneuver. Lyra met his gaze. I know. That's why I'm here. 3 hours later, Lyra stood in Thaxos' private command center, watching as Vesperan defense systems activated against the approaching Earth fleet. Her information had proven accurate. The fleet had been positioned for a killing strike, timed to coincide with the activation of the neural virus. But the virus was now neutralized, its code being rewritten by Vesperan technicians to send a different message. Not destruction, but revelation. It's ready, the lead technician announced. The modified signal will broadcast Earth Command's true intentions to every settlement in both systems. Their deception will be exposed to their own people. Do it, Thaxos ordered. As the signal transmitted, Lyra thought of Harrison, of Rodriguez, of all the leaders who had decided that one final act of treachery was preferable to the uncertain path of peace. Their gambit had failed, but what would come next? Your people may brand you a traitor, Thaxos said quietly, reading her expression. Probably, she agreed. And yours may never fully trust me. True. He inclined his head. Which leaves us where, exactly? Lyra looked at the tactical display, where the Earth fleet had halted its advance, no doubt in chaos as the exposed plan reached their commanders. It leaves us with a choice, she said, the same one we've always had. Continue as enemies or find another way forward. Thaxos studied her for a long moment. Then, in a gesture she recognized from her cultural briefings as one of profound respect, he extended both hands, palms upward. The Union proposal stands, he said, not as a political strategy, but as a genuine attempt to bridge what divides us. Will you consider it, Lyra Nakamura? Not as Earth's representative, but as yourself. Lyra looked at his outstretched hands, alien yet somehow familiar in their offering. She thought of all the battles, the scars, the artificial leg that still ached with phantom pain. She thought of Earth, of Vespera, of two species that had spent too long perfecting each other's destruction. Then she placed her hands in his, one flesh, one biomechanical, both equally human, and made her choice. Yes, she said simply, I will. Outside, the twin suns of Vespera began to rise, casting fractured light through the crystal city. Not a marriage of love, perhaps, but something possibly more enduring. A union born of courage and hope, a first fragile bridge across the void that had separated them for too long. It was enough to begin with. The rest, they would build together.